Welcome to Ann Arbor Democracy, a place for conversation about how our local leaders are elected and how political decisions are made, what this looked like in the past and what it looks like now. This project aims to explore the recent history and current reality of Ann Arbor democracy. In the 1970s, local government in Ann Arbor consistently included both Republicans and Democrats. Both parties fielded candidates in most, if not all, local races. For 2 election cycles, a third leftist party also elected candidates. In 1971, Lou Belcher was recruited to run in the Republican Party primary for mayor. In that primary, he lost to local attorney Jack Garris, who was then defeated by incumbent Democratic Mayor Bob Harris. In 1974, Lou ran successfully for city council and won a seat representing Ward 5. In 1977, he ran again for mayor. The mayoral race in 1977 between Republican Lou Belcher and incumbent Democrat Al Wheeler was so close that the results were challenged in court. Ultimately, both parties agreed to a do-over in 1978. Lou Belcher won the mayoral election in 1978. He served as mayor of Ann Arbor from 1978 to 1985. What follows is a conversation I had with Lou Belcher in February 2024.
Louis Belcher, known as Lou, and I'm 84, and I've just outlived all my teeth, so.
And I'm talking to you because you had a fairly long career in our local government.
Yeah, I did. It wasn't intended. I didn't really get into local politics until someone who turned into be my best friend in the world, Paul Rader, and his wife visited me. I had no idea who they were, and knocked on the door early evening, and they said, "We'd like to recruit you as a precinct leader for the Republican Party."
Now, what year would that have been?
68 probably, because I had to run for mayor unintentionally the first time. I really wasn't in politics. And the only reason I was a Republican is my grandfather was. And he said, Butch, that's what everybody called me, Butch, let me tell you the difference, because he was so against Truman, who right now is one of my favorite presidents, because he told it like it was, and whether he liked it or not. He said, let me tell you what the difference between a Republican and a Democrat. Picture a long dock, and someone falls in at the end of the dock. A Democrat would just run down there, grab a life jacket, and throw it to him. Now, Republicans, Butch, will run down there, throw him a life raft, drag him in, haul him up, and then chew his ass out for falling in, and he won't do it again. Okay, Grandpa, so I guess I'm a Republican, I don't know. So I'm not in politics at all, and the Raiders came, and Paul was well known in the city. Beckett and Rader, big landscape people. I became a precinct leader, having no idea what a precinct leader does. And at that time, we had I didn't know at the time, but at that time we had a really strong organization. We had a bunch of combat-tested females that wouldn't give you a time of day. They ran elections here in town.
The Republicans, you mean?
Yes. And Wendy Rader was one of them, but there was probably 6. And they're famous in what they did, I guess. So they told me what a precinct leader did. And eventually, I became a ward leader. Then eventually I became chairman of the Republican Party here in town. Not wanting it, not looking for it, but just put my time in, because at that time I was flying on Wednesdays and Saturdays. My squadron was. And I had 3 young daughters. and well, only 2 at that time. 3 came later. And an engineering company to run. And I was up to, I didn't have a lot of time. So I was going to put my time in and get out. Well, Jim Stevenson was our mayor, Republican mayor, and he had a whole clique behind him. Not the kind of clique you see in politics. This is a golf clique, poker clique. They all belonged to Barton Hills, and they had a poker game and all kinds of things. Joe Edwards of Edwards Brothers, and you just keep going down the list of presidents of banks and everything else. They all put their 2 years or 4 years in reluctantly, and then got back in their business. So I'm chairman of the Republican Party. Jim is running for mayor. He's running against a very militant Democrat who was kind of kicked out of the Democrat Party, a lawyer in town, a real tough lawyer.
I'm not sure if I'm oriented to the right time frame. I found that you challenged Jack Garris.
Garris.
Now, he was a Republican.
No, he wasn't.
He wasn't?
He was an absolute flaming, hardcore Democrat in the Democrat Party. And he ran as a Republican.
Why would he do that? Why would he run in the Republican primary if he was a Democrat?
Because the Democrats didn't want him running for anything.
But if Stevenson was in the primary, why did you go in the primary as well?
Because Stevenson's wife died 30 days before the election.
Oh, wow.
So the Republican Party came to me, all the guys and gals, and said, we don't have anybody to run because Jim can't run now. You're the Republican chairman of the city. It's your duty to take on Garris because we can't let that Democrat that militant Democrat lawyer.
Okay, so you and Jack Garris are in the Republican primary in 71.
And I got beat by Jack.
Okay.
Okay. Jack had a real bad reputation as a lawyer, too. I mean,
so Harris and Garris?
I think that was the race. I mean, once I got out of the race, the Republican Party wasn't having any part of Jack Harris. So the party just sat in our hands.
Let's jump to the first election that you won.
Well, Fifth Ward at that time was pretty Republican. I think it's so long ago, I think I did pretty well at that one. It was a Republican precinct. There was no question about it. And our councilman retired.
Lloyd Fairbanks?
Yeah, he retired up north. So he moved up north, and then I ran again under some pressure. And then after I won my council seat, then the Republican on council elected me mayor pro tem. And that's when I interfaced with Al Wheeler a lot, because I had 6 votes with me, so I had a majority. So Al had veto power, and I liked Al. I always liked Al. Al and I got along together really well. The only time we really had some tension was because of his wife. And his wife was the head of the inner city council.
The Model Cities
Model
Policy
Cities.
Board.
And she was president. And the federal government had given her $7 million. And there was no books. So I kept saying, Al, look, I'm mayor pro tem. I got 6 votes. I know you'll veto. I don't want to embarrass you, but we've got to have an audit of model cities. We have to have an audit. So Al and I got along fine. We did get a lot of things passed that we talked about. He was a biochemist instructor at University of Michigan. And he was probably a nice guy, way out of his field. He had no real interest in the government. And he pretty well left the real hard jobs to me as mayor pro tem. When we had some council people that got out of line, he'd say, "Can you put them back in?" They weren't my people, so I did some of. We had we were missing some money in City Hall, and he said, "You got to get to the bottom of that." He said, "I have no idea what to do." So I said, "Okay, I'll take over that for you." So we kind of worked out an agreement like that.
When I look at the background of what the council looked like, the composition of council during this period when you were on, starting in 74, what was that like when there was real differences and negotiations happening? This is an interesting topic to talk to you about because I think everybody I've talked to so far has been either a Democrat or some affiliation with the Human Rights Party. And the Human Rights Party was perceived as a threat to the Democrats, splitting the vote. As a Republican, were you guys popping the popcorn and just sort of laughing like, oh, this is great?
Well, then I really, yeah, we just let them go because the Democrats were really using the HRP in their own way.
How? Because the HRP was sort of hurting them. They lost some seats because of the HRP.
Well, they did. That was a dynamic that was hard to figure. They had their own agenda, obviously, and it wasn't the Democrats' agenda. My training as a squadron commander set me up, you know, to run an organization like this. A lot of different kind of people, and I got along with a lot. I got along with most everybody. Kosachenko, who's going to have her own statue. She's a lovely lady. They mistreated her so badly.
Who? Who mistreated Kathy?
Democrats. I felt so sorry for Kathy. She's not an aggressive person.
Okay.
So she was lost. So I called Kathy in my office and I said, alone. I felt sorry for her. She was all alone over there and they were beating the hell out of her. And I said, Kathy, when you have a problem and you want to talk about something, just come in here and talk with me. We can talk. And so we kind of became friends. And I'd drive her to her gas station to pick up her car and we'd chat. You know, I really felt sorry for Kathy. She was a very nice lady, very shy. And wasn't carrying the banner, became the target of some of the Democrats. She'd come in once in a while and talk. And when I saw she was going to have her statue, I thought, I'd like to talk to her. I haven't seen Kathy in years.
I presume she's going to come to town and visit.
Yeah, I'm going to look her up. Take her car to the gas station. She had no support at all, none, zero, zip.
Oh, that's tough. I read a few articles where she tried to bring something and she couldn't even get a second.
No,
Yeah.
that's true. She's all alone. So when it came for the 77 election, guys and gals came to me and said, we'd like you to run for a mayor.
What did your wife think of that?
She didn't say a lot.
She had a taste of what it was like to be on council. Did she think, oh no, not more?
I don't know. Everybody gets used to me. I usually have 15 fires going at one time. You know, as we get into my life longer after politics just started for Ann Arbor. No one knew it. I became the darling of the Republican Party. I was their poster boy. And I was asked to be the head speaker to invite the Republican Party into Detroit for the 1980 convention. So that plus the fact that I got a call from the Republican Party in Washington. It said, Barbara Bush would like to come to Ann Arbor. Can you escort her around town and introduce her to people. Why she wanted to come to Ann Arbor, I have no idea, but a lot of people come to Ann Arbor. Actually, it was before the 1980 election, because Bush was running against Reagan.
Okay.
And so she was out campaigning. A delightful lady, like my grandma. And I took her down to all the businesses because I knew most of them. And they really liked her. She's a very nice lady. I enjoyed that whole day. So I'm now starting to become known in the Republican Party, which really helped Ann Arbor. One of the greatest things, of all the things I did as mayor, my biggest accomplishment is saving Arrowwood 431 low-income housing. Let me tell you how we got all the power in Ann Arbor. Secretary Pierce, Secretary of HUD, had to quit. And his temporary replacement, God love you, his daughter went to the University of Michigan. So now the head of HUD comes to Ann Arbor all the time. And to write it off his business, he always invites me for dinner. He said to me, Lou, we never hear from Ann Arbor. I said, yeah, if I do something, but it's so big, I don't know whether you can do it. And he said, what's that? He said, I'm about to lose, Ann Arbor's about to lose Arrowwood. And Arrowwood's got 400 or 500 housing units that these people own. They own them, and they're going to lose the whole thing. And we got two developers that are just chomping at the bit to take it over, and they're going to go into bankruptcy. And he looked at me and said, how many is on the board of Arrowwood? I said, 12. And I said, the whole complex is one of our biggest minority housing developments in Ann Arbor. And quite frankly, I don't know what we're going to do. He said, can you get the board to Washington? I said, there's 12 of them. Yeah, I can do it. I'll do it. He said, because I'll arrange a meeting with them and our people.
So the board of Arrowwood went to D.C.
I raised the money from businesses, but the businesses, I knew them all. And they all kicked in.
What was required to save Arrowwood?
Had to redo the whole mortgage, and the federal government had to underwrite it all.
Wow.
And so 12, most of them had never flown before. So I took them all. We got an airplane together, zipped down to Washington. And of course, they were pretty wide-eyed about Washington. They had a couple of days down there. We had enough money for our hotels and all that sort of stuff. And they made a presentation. The president of Arrowwood later became a city councilwoman. I had a business before city council 20 years later, 15 years later, sometime. And I thought, God, the Democrats aren't going to buy this at all. And I walked in, and she ran up to me, threw her arms around me, gave me a big kiss. I said, thank you, God. And it was for the operating of GTE in Ann Arbor to renew their license, which would have gone over like a, what, in church right now.
In part 2 of my conversation with Lou Belcher, we talk about the contested mayoral election of 1977 and how the community came together to rescue the Michigan Theater. Like and subscribe if you'd like to be alerted to more content like this.